The guy exposing Mr. Beast is really weird.
Dude, you are controlled opposition.
What does that mean?
It means you're trying to get me to reveal confidential information and break my NDA.
I don't know what your NDA is. I'm trying to ask questions about the freaking thing.
Oh, you know what an NDA is?
Yeah, but I don't know what your NDA covers. Okay, what should I not ask you?
About any videos that I worked on.
Can I know what videos you worked on so I don't ask questions about them? Or if you're okay, so then I just can't ask you anything.
Well, ask me. Ask me anything. I'm an open book.
No, you're not. You just said that I'm controlled opposition because I did ask you something.
Okay.
Up until this point, I was genuinely convinced by some of what Dogpack404 was saying in this video, because after all, he worked in the Mr. Beast company, and if he brought up a point, I was inclined to believe it because he was an insider and I wasn't. But after hearing this interview and seeing this guy couldn't hold a conversation without contradicting himself every other moment, I began to question the integrity of the accusations he brought up against Mr. Beast. Up until this point, I thought because he was an insider, he must have reasons to believe his claims. These weren't just speculations and allegations from a random person on the internet, because as Ludwig said,
the issue with the word allegedly is you can say anything.
Damaging a person's reputation requires taking responsibility from your end. You can't just accuse somebody because you think something is true without evidence. You can't just bring up an allegation without certainty that it's true and get millions of people on the internet to side with you. You know what that's called? It's called a witch hunt. But Dogpack404 must have had evidence for his claims, right? These weren't just allegations, right? Well, so for example, when this guy claimed to have worked for Mr. Beast and he said,
"You didn't spend the night soaked, Jimmy. You slept on the production yacht."
I thought that was true, that because he was in the company, he knew this to be a fact that they slept in the production yacht. And I was like, that's pretty scummy. But when Ludwig asked him, okay, was that true, the production yacht thing, he dodged around the question and berated him for asking a question.
Is that alleged or was there a yacht? Just look at the evidence. The evidence is you said they went on a yacht. So when you said they went on a yacht, was that alleged or do you like know or something? Chucky didn't deny it. Yeah, but like, okay. Tell me what that means. Well, I'm saying you said, let me know if you have questions. Look at the evidence. But the evidence for the yacht thing you are saying is you said it and then someone didn't deny it. But that's not evidence. But okay, let's ignore that one. The drain one, the swampy drain one. The evidence is no one is on the boat, bozo. Why are you yelling at me? You said if you have questions, ask.
So it turns out it was not based on any insider information at all. He just speculated based on what he saw posted on the internet like the rest of us and played detective. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm still convinced that they left the raft at some point in the middle, but this gave me new information. That this guy was not speaking as a former insider of a company, but he was just a guy on the internet. That led me to rewatch the video he posted without bias that he knew more about this subject matter than I did. Because it was already proven on at least one occasion that he made a statement that appeared factual but was actually based on speculation. Turns out, surprise, we can barely call this guy an insider because he worked there for less than a month and was fired for erratic behavior. So what exactly would be an erratic behavior? Would fuming on a guy you just met after he just said hi count as an erratic behavior?
It's great to meet you. I'm Ludwig.
I know you.
Have we met?
No, I just know that you're the guy who cheats in video games.
Okay, whoa.
Or with deciding that your thoughts are 100% factual and refusing to believe the other person's correction about those thoughts count as an erratic behavior.
You're a theater kid, right?
No. I was an athlete in high school.
No, you're a theater kid, be honest.
I did one musical. I was an athlete. I was varsity soccer for 2 years. I'm a Red Bull athlete now, buddy. Okay?
Okay, so you're a theater kid.
This guy must be a joy to work with. Like, you form your character judgment based on probably one piece of information that you got from watching him stream and declare that factual. And when the person corrects you that that's not true, the person himself is speaking that that's not true, and you say you're right anyway. I wonder how you formed your allegations on Mr. Beast being a fraud. Probably the same process, right? Take limited information, speculate on it, declare that factual. Get other people on the internet to side with you despite it being speculation. I can only imagine the poor guy who had to work with him, who, despite how this guy talks, tries to have a rational conversation with him and gets cursed out.
So you should be able to tell when I'm joking and when I'm acting and when I'm being serious.
I literally, and I mean this so genuinely, have zero idea. I feel like at all times there's like an air of troll, but I can never tell when you're serious.
Huh. Have you like been diagnosed with anything?
Are you calling me autistic? No.
So I watched like a 10-minute interview and I'm already stressed out and I want nothing to do with this guy. So I can only imagine how he is at a workplace. Like, this interview made me not take everything he says as factual, but really watch his video again with a degree of skepticism, keeping in mind there was a good chance he was speculating. Now, I see a lot of big YouTubers are scared to protect their reputation, and they know that the moment they start defending Mr. Beast, angry internet trolls will come at them with pitchforks telling them to change their opinion. Like, this guy actually defended Mr. Beast and ended up having to change his opinion. But this is a new channel that nobody knows about, and I don't have a reputation to protect. I don't care. So, I organized every single accusation he made against the 100 boys versus 100 girls challenge video, but instead this time with skepticism, because the first time I watched it, when he said the contestants were
Never random, they're almost always local to Mr. Beast and oftentimes friends and family of Mr. Beast employees.
I took that to be factual because I thought he was speaking from actual insider knowledge, like he knew that to be true. And I was like, wow, that's pretty scummy. So it doesn't pick subscribers to actually be in the video.
They are never random subscribers. If you subscribe, you will not win $1 million.
But now that I look at it with a perspective that this guy might be speculating, I noticed some pretty weird gaps in his logic. Now that you don't have insider knowledge and trust me bro as your reasoning anymore, you actually do need to provide evidence for your claims. And your claim was,
the random subscribers you see in challenges are actually never random. They're almost always local to Mr. Beast and oftentimes friends and family of Mr. Beast employees or just the employees themselves. And when they do pull someone from outside of North Carolina, it's usually somebody who's in the industry, who's camera trained, who has built a following.
And your second claim was,
Has ever rigged the results of a challenge? That would be impossible because he films with hundreds of random subscribers, right? Wrong.
So I rewound the video over and over to make sure if there was any evidence for the contestants are almost always local to Mr. Beast part of his argument. And by local, he said North Carolina. There was no evidence. So basically, he's saying these people from age 1 to 100, these people from Squid Games, these people from 100 Kids versus 100 Adults, these people from I Hunted 100 People, these people from 100 Boys versus 100 Girls, etc., were all from North Carolina or were friends and families of employees or someone from the industry if they're outside of North Carolina, and he doesn't provide a single evidence for the almost always local part of the argument. So where is this idea that almost no contestant is from outside of North Carolina coming from? It's crazy that this guy would just argue that it is, provide no proof, and millions of people just believe it. So the first actual evidence he gave had nothing to do with the North Carolina thing and was relevant to the employee part of claim number 1 as well as claim number 2 that the games were rigged. He presented a DM between him and a former employee at Mr. Beast team. He asked, were the results of any videos rigged? And the person replied, they didn't have enough girls to film, so several Mr. Beast employees stepped in for the video, but most had to get out immediately. So production was told to get more boys out to make it closer. And it turns out the reason there were fewer girls in that video was because of COVID. The first problem I have with this evidence is that it doesn't really support your claim. Like, your argument is that none of Mr. Beast's contestants are random ever. Like, in every single one of his videos, you even double down on it.
They are never random subscribers.
And your evidence to support this argument about every single Mr. Beast video comes from a short-term employee. What? So, even if every single word of what this guy said is true, how would that validate your claim that Mr. Beast's contestants are never random? You're taking one very specific example from a very specific situation when an uncontrollable force like COVID happened. Employees were put in a time of emergency to fill in the gaps for the sick people of a global pandemic. Wow, that is so criminal. You're taking this situation and applying that to every other video? Dude, there's actually a term for what you're doing, and it's called generalization. It's a practice they teach you since grade school to avoid doing. Like, if you were an actual insider who didn't get fired after a month, you would have known the reason the employees were there was because of COVID, something that an actual insider knew, and you didn't, so you speculated yet again. The second problem that I have with this evidence is like, there's basically zero credibility. Like, it's from an anonymous source and it's a text message, and we just have to trust you, bro. But despite everything, I'll let this one slide because I don't think you're the type of guy to forge evidence just to prove something. I do genuinely believe that. The third problem I have with this evidence is that this guy literally says he thinks the results were rigged because the girls didn't get out after a shift change, and is using that as evidence. Like, that's proof for my argument that the results were rigged because this guy sent me a DM and he thinks the results were rigged. My reasoning is because another guy thinks so. What? That's not evidence. That's speculation from another guy. And the fact that you think this happened was denied by an actual person from the Mr. Beast team. And I get that he would be biased, but you're the one throwing allegations without proof. The rest of the points he brings up about rigging are just him looking at a Mr. Beast video and speculating, just like the yacht thing. For example, this guy was really good at solving Rubik's Cubes, and the game was to solve Rubik's Cubes, and the game was being too one-sided, so they offered him a chance to get paid out. And it's not like they forced him out, the guy could still choose to stay if he wanted. Like, this was clearly done for entertainment purposes. This is a YouTube video, not the Olympics, and Mr. Beast has every right to do that because this is literally his game that he's running with his own money. And Dogpack44 goes, that's not fair, you guys are trying to help the girls. And his reasoning for something happening off camera, aka the game being rigged, is literally he's willing to believe it.
How much they're willing to help them on camera, I'm willing to believe that they did in fact help them off camera. I'm willing to believe that they did. I'm willing to believe that.
Dude, that's the perfect argument. If you believe really hard that something happened, it must have happened. I feel like this is the biggest and the most important one here. I'm gonna start out by saying Dogpack44 got this one. Although he's not a lawyer and I'm not a lawyer, his logic is sound and it does look like an illegal lottery, and Mr. Beast's team might get legal charges, and I really don't care. Like, I'm an adult and therefore responsible for my own purchases. I wouldn't like buy 100 shirts when I have no money just to win the prize, because obviously that would just be making a stupid decision. Like, I imagine they will be definitely punished by law if they haven't already, but as for what I think about it, so a couple guys try to sell shirts and they did giveaways, like on a scale of mildly disconcerting to, oh my god, how could they? This earns the spot of who the fuck cares? Now, as for the kids, because oh my god, I've seen this whole but what about the kids being addicted to gambling argument, I would like to say this right off the bat because I know some people are gonna get mad. The moment you bring kids into the argument, I feel like you've already lost the argument. Let me double that down. It's a very manipulative way for you to supposedly win the argument without actually being rational about it. Like, when you're talking about violence in video games, for example, a person might argue, hey, a rational person will understand the difference between a video game and real life. Then a Karen goes, yeah, well, what about the children? And you go, what about the children? And a Karen goes, children tend to not be rational and they're very impressionable. If they grow up playing video games where they shoot people, that will cause them to actually shoot people in real life. And you go, okay, let's say for the sake of argument that video games do lead to real life gun violence, which I'm not saying I agree with, wouldn't that be the parents' fault for letting their kids play literally parental advisory stickered games instead of outright banning video games? And she goes, they're kids. The parents can only do so much. It's better to just ban what's causing the problem. Like, if you successfully undermine the rational part in the rational person context, then you can literally win any argument. But you're not gonna convince people by saying, but what about the irrational people? So you instead say, but what about the kids? And that usually works better. We should ban beer from stores. Why? Because kids might get their hands on it. Kids aren't allowed to buy beer. You have to show ID. Kids will still get their hands on it one way or another. A fake ID, a friend, okay? But that's on them. They're not supposed to do that. Their parents are supposed to supervise them. They're kids, and we as adults have a responsibility to nip off the problem in the buds. And at this point, if you argue further, you become the guy that doesn't care about children. But if you think in this day and age of gotchas, loot boxes, and weapon upgrades that your kids have never been exposed to a game of chance, you're an idiot. In fact, I would argue that including a giveaway for buying shirts is way less scummy than these. Plus, this got illegal on a technicality because if they mentioned somewhere like in a cereal box, no purchase necessary option, it would have been legal. The fact that they failed to mention in small unreadable letters an option that nobody uses anyway, which if you don't believe me, you can hear it from the guy himself saying it in the same video.
To enter for free, you have to mail in separate 3" by 5" hand-addressed written index cards, up to 10 a day. Do you think kids are gonna do that shit or just beg their parents when they're at Walmart?
So basically, Dogpack404, you found a technicality problem that even you admit to that nobody uses
Do you think kids are gonna do that shit?
as an excuse to use the word illegal and make it seem way worse than it actually is. Like, if you ask me, that's scummier than doing freaking giveaways. You're complaining about Mr. Beast claiming Feastables, a chocolate bar, was healthier than Hershey's, but Feastables, a chocolate bar, ingredients are now unhealthy, so you felt the need to let the public know that the marketing was a fraud and the message that Feastables, a chocolate bar, is unhealthy should be spread worldwide? Wait, let me get a chocolate bar while I think about that. I could go on, but making this video was a challenge because the guy is a walking, talking conspiracy machine. Like, if I ate a sandwich in front of this guy, he would probably call me out for being a pig hater because I was eating ham. And before you call me a controlled opposition as well,
You are controlled opposition.
I am in no way related to Mr. Beast. He didn't pay me off. He didn't threaten me. He didn't do whatever you think he does to people if they make a video defending him. There are people in this world who think a miserable person shooting off 100 accusations about a famous person hoping one or two of them will stick is pretty scummy, and I just happen to be one of those people. I'm just a guy with a different opinion.